and Majid will partner Chris Melling for Great Britain B in the World Cup. So he would like a confidence booster going there. But one has to say, thus far, Beckley has played very nicely indeed.
Yeah, well, Jeff is a player that played many pro events, very talented guy. Took a little time off. More than a little, I'd say. Actually, more of the best of probably 10 years in the professional side of things. And a great opener here for Sanderson. The rack didn't quite open as we've seen so far today, but nevertheless, a great starter on the 2. And good thing he's lefty. It would be one heck of a stretch otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not saying this with hindsight because he's had a good break off in the opening rack, but I would make Sanderson a big favourite, actually.
Man, he's fallen nicely on the 3. Has choices on the 5. Probably comes across the table for the 5 in the right middle pocket. So on both your screens, if you have them both tuned in, 2 of UK's hopefuls. Not the top dogs from the UK in this event, but definitely not far down the line. Sanderson, of course, he recognizes himself as a favorite. Most of the players will enter a match with that mentality anyways, but had to know a bit about his opponent prior to becoming such a good 9-ball player himself. Martin Gould on the snooker side of things, but when you have some of those results he's had, it's not something that American pool players are going to pass up on or not notice, especially being from the UK himself. Gotten a little out of line here on this 7, overran a bit. Wouldn't be surprised if he pulls this ball 3 rails. Right, he could come 1 rail kind of into the 9 with the cue ball just because it lays really nice to do so. But if he comes some 3 rails, he's got to put enough speed to get the cut shot on the 8, but not too much to get behind or maybe over the 9 ball. So a little tricky here. Little low right English. Okay, he's come tight of the 9, so just being over the 9 is the only real problem. And he's just short of that mark, so looks good here for Sanderson in the first rack. Gotta watch, queuing next to the 9, all ball fouls.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just the kind of start that Elliott Sanderson would want. He's originally from Barnsley in Yorkshire, but he was telling me yesterday that he's in the process of moving to East Kilbride in Scotland. And he's very much looking forward to representing Great Britain in the World Cup. He's going to be partnering Jason Shaw. And Jason actually was making the point that it's going to be great for both of them because they're not going to have to worry about where they place their partner in terms of position, thinking about whether they're left-handed or right-handed, because they're both left-handed. So what's good for one will be good for the other.
Yeah, that's true. And it's funny, until you play a match, you can practice that all you want, but with the shot clock, with the moment in the World Cup, it's easy to overlook if you are playing with an opposite hand partner. It might take actually a mistake or so in that regard before you're very, very aware of it at all times. But partners is such a unique dynamic. You know, you can look at certain teams and you think, man, they're a clear favorite. But really, if you watch Mosconi Cup, that'll really show you that it's really about just playing simple and solid for the most part. Because usually, if you start off solid, you're going to improve. Ball pocketing becomes better. things have become more simple, and a dry break here early. Didn't get the greatest opening in the first rack either, even though he did make balls. Now he's going to take on this kick shot. That's surprising and a little inexperienced maybe on the 9-ball side of things instead of pushing out.
It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that he's not au fait with the push-out rule, you know. Not beyond the bounds of possibility.
Well, you would know better in that regard than I would, but he's already played a match, right? I mean, you got to figure. I understand the push out was difficult there because of the wall of balls here with the 6-9, 3 and 2. Would have made a difficult push out, but still wouldn't have been as difficult as trying to predict that kick shot.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's likely that he doesn't know the rule. I think he most certainly does, but there is just that grain of doubt in my mind thinking, is he au fait with it?
Well, coincidence or not, I've forgotten a rule or two in my time, and it's been there's been one of recent times that that kind of cost me. So I do understand.
You wouldn't be talking about that Alexandra Palace incident, would you, Jeremy, by any chance?
Yeah, incident's a nice way to put it, but yeah, that's it can get the best of anyone. Pretty good hit, but there was always a possibility of a scratch, and now Elliott has to ball in hand, but he has to deal with a situation with the 6-9. Now the good thing is, we'll see how crafty he is with the 1, 2, and 3 near. Can maybe he open the 6-9 here early? Maybe shooting the 2 coming across, bumping the 6-9, holding position for the 3 in the side. That would lend shape on the 4-up table. And the thing is, the 5's not in a good position to break the 6-9. So if I thought about doing it, it would have to be early. Oh, he's going to draw across now. The thing about drawing across is you're going to have a slower cue ball, so very easy to nestle on the balls, and you got to be very accurate. I may have set up to come 1 rail across off this right side rail, cutting the 2 in the corner, coming into the 6-9. This takes a bit more of touch. And maybe I even stay away from it. I don't know, because he doesn't have much angle here, so he's got to kind of force the draw over into the 6-9. So that usually leans towards not as much touch. I'd have rather had a rolling ball coming into this little congestion. And that's what I mean right there. And I don't know if he got snookered or not, but anytime you're drawing the ball off of a mild angle like that, hard to hold the line and the speed. I think he does have the corner though, Phil.
Yeah, he was disappointed. He wanted to knock it into the side pocket, didn't he? And then he got down and realised that wasn't a possibility. But you're right, he does have the corner.
Yeah, nothing easy here either, especially trying to come backwards with the cue ball, which is a better way to shoot the shot as far as pocketing the ball and having to put some power into the cue ball. And the thing about the breakout, once he got in that position, he had to tell himself, well, if I don't get the breakout I want, at least I can't leave myself bad on the 3. I can always work as long as I can see the entire 3 ball. Imran Majid, I don't think, has left Beckley back to the table since it was that 8-4 score, I believe. Taking a lot of time here. All right, it's all about the route of the cue ball. Oh, he really put a lot in that. A lot of stroke, a lot of power, and he's lost the white ball up in the corner.
And now, because of his potting and technical abilities, this is the kind of position where you expect Martin Gould to be utterly reliable.
Yeah, and playing with an American pool cue instead of a snooker cue does look quite new. So Okay, he can play the 5 up long, or he can stun by the 5. I like this simple decision here. All right, I think he could go forward a little bit, trying to play for the 1 rail angle on the 6, but stunning out of the corner off the 6 is okay as well. He did come forward, so he's just going to play simply 1 or 2 rails coming up the table. I may get a little bit on top of the 8. Looks like it's okay. And one good thing for the snooker players is, you know, on the dry, slick equipment, I think it's one of the conditions that we can get away with a little less side spin at times, which I think is going to help some of the snooker players maneuvering through the racks.
Well, he took those very nicely. Sanderson with that big shot that backfired, scratched, and Martin Gould dished up to equalise at 1 rack each. Got to give you some scores around the tables, and one of them is very interesting indeed. How about this, Jeremy? On table 13, unlucky for one player, Ko Pin Yi so far, he finds himself 5-0 down to a Brit by the name of Luke Garland. So that's a really surprising scoreline. Jason Theron from South Africa, he leads Giuseppe Iacobi 3-1. Omar Al-Shaheen, runner-up in the World Championship last year, he's taken the first rack against Matthias Akulsch. Niels Fine going grey guns, 7-1 up, so he looks like getting through to the next round. Max Lechner, though, in a battle with Batkin Melkonyan from Romania, 6-5 Lechner.
Now Ko Pin Yi trails 6-0. I can see that outer table. I watched the first rack in that match, and now this last one seems like a pretty solid player he's playing. Jeff Beckley back to the table. It's been a while. Made a nice shot on the 1, so he's got a good chance to end this match.
Now, the encouraging thing for Gould in the contest we're watching, that break-off was a significant improvement on anything he produced yesterday when he beat Tashunka Schultz 9-4.
Yeah, a little light stroke here on the 3. Got a bit of a kick there. I don't know if you noticed it, but just a little bit. The slower speeds kind of promote that. Now he's in a great position, though, a little bit over the 8, but really no problems with the 5 on the left side, the 6 over the middle, the 8 near. Just really, again, keep yourself from a missable ball.
Always been known in snooker circles as a very good potter, Martin Gould. So the actual potting aspect of this assignment will not faze him in the slightest. One thing he was doing yesterday, he was asking the official in charge to remove the template for him. Didn't do that himself. I think he felt a little inhibited by that. Yeah, you see.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to move it myself either. I don't see the point. I'm not sure if the players are really calling a foul in that regard, but we are playing all ball fouls, so don't think I'll be touching it myself the entire week if I was in the tournament.
I certainly would not. I have seen players do it, though. How about this from Martin Gould? Since the scratch from Elliott Sanderson, it's been a potting fest from Gould, who, after losing the opening rack, now finds himself 2-1 in front. And I can't wait to give you this scoreline, Jeremy. Luke Garland now leads Copigny 7-0. Bear in mind, Copigny won that big tournament in Bucharest last week. A world-class player who's being humbled by a little-known Brit.
Yeah, well, confidence and momentum is a big part of our sport, like most sports. And also, you can tell he's got to be very capable to get to that score line. It looks like Beckley on table 2 is sizing up a combination that I'm not too in love with. We'll see how he does and if he can get it down in advance. Nothing wrong with that break shot.
Honestly, Jeremy, his break-off yesterday was not fit for purpose. It's different today. He's moved across. He's hitting that apex ball, and he looks so much more effective.
Yeah, probably got a little information from a player or two, counterpart in some regard. And it's funny you say he's a great putter, and you consider most in snooker, but he must be one of those more elite, one of his strengths in the game of snooker.
Yeah, always been one of those players who goes for his shots and plays entertainingly.
And that's probably why he's made some big runs in some big snooker events when he's on. Very dangerous player, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we mentioned yesterday he's won a world ranking event, the 2016 German Masters. He's actually been involved in 4 ranking event finals, so that's a really good career. And he's won the Championship League a couple of times. The shootout, he won an event called Power Snooker, which was a £50,000 first prize. So he is a winner.
Well, and these guys are gaining information, whether they know it or not, with every kind of game and match played. Because Q Sports, what people don't understand is there's a big gut instinct involved, believe it or not. You know, sometimes these players, they just got to go with what they feel, even though it may not be so cut and dry. Skylar Woodward now in action in his second match. Didn't play his best in the first match. We had a little discussion about it, and didn't seem like he was enjoying himself like he normally would. I know it's all business out here, but we're still playing a game, so this may bump the 9 a bit. Okay, got by it. And the rack's not needed to be removed here in this shot.
Martin Gould, very impressive. Well done. He's won consecutive racks through breaking and running out. And after losing the opener, he now leads 3-1. Other scores for you. Kelly Fisher, she's 7-6 up on Ruben Omar da Campo. Francesco Candela from Italy, he leads Marco Dorenberg 7-3. Sanyan Pilovanovic, he's 1-0 up on Shane Conroy. Max Lechner being given a real battle by Babkin Malkonyan from Romania. Mieszko Fortunski, semi-finalist in the recent World Masters, 5-3 up on the Welshman, Marcel Price.
And to show you the variety in our sport and from match to match, Beckley and Imran, I believe, from what I've seen, have played a very solid match. And that's the first match from our 10 o'clock round on table 2, and we're, you know, a third of the way, or not quite there, a quarter of the way through our third match here on table number 1.
You're forgetting Naoki Oi.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. Excuse me. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but table 2, you're quite right, is behind in terms of the time it's taking.
And how can you forget Naoki Oi? Is he taking on the bank here? Wow, he hit it sweet. Confidence brewing here for Martin Gould. Imran Majid missed a long pink and has given up a shot to Jeff Beckley. So really this first shot for Jeff, a little touchy coming across, but if he can get that down, he should advance.
Now jacking up on this, it is missable, although I expect Gould to get it. Oh, now then, that was a complete cue across. Don't expect that from Martin.
Yeah, he mishit the cue ball, it looked like. Hit a bit of left English. You know, how often do the snooker players playing snooker really elevate the cue, right? I mean, some chip shots, I guess, but they're not going to elevate the cue from distance. I wouldn't think anyways. Not very often.
Well, when they've got awkward cueing, obviously when you're playing such large dimensions, it really becomes extremely difficult.
Easy to overhit when you're elevated in the cue. Also, it's just kind of an instinct kind of thing, and try to remind people you have to understand the elevation is helping the shot, even though it's a difficult thing, but easy to draw the ball with an elevated cue, stop the ball, so you can stay actually pretty normal form.
So as Sanderson keeps his opponent tight, Jeff Beckley is over a possible 6-9 combination to win. Here we go. I'll tell you as soon as it's in. Indeed it is. And so Jeff Beckley defeats Imran Majid 9-7.
And a miss kicked here by Gould, and it was a tough one. He only had the top half of the three to get at. So Sanderson with ball in hand, he's got to pay attention here. All the balls kind of grouped together, but very doable. Should just stun the ball. I wouldn't go forward for the 5 in the lower left. I would stay actually above and straight for the 5 in the lower right. That would make easy stop position on the 6. I think that's what he's going to do. And just like that. Minimal cue ball movement.
I can't wait to the end of the rack to tell you this one. Luke Garland now 8-0 up on Ko Pin-Yi.
Yeah, and Ko was at the table shooting the 4 on the side. I saw him make the 4 in that rack and kind of assumed he'd get on the board. He usually does in that situation and maybe get the ball rolling, but quite the opposite. And I'll tell you another thing for this, you know, looking ahead to next month for this team of Sanderson and Shaw, is the pace of play is going to agree with each other. You know, maybe Sanderson actually a bit quicker than Shaw, but Shaw's not going to be slowed down, which is good. Interesting backhand for Sanderson. Looks like he really kind of squeezes the cue, which is not something that you'll see very often from this level.
That rack will be a source of relief to Elliott Sanderson. Martin Gould had won the previous 2 by breaking and running out. So Sanderson needed to stop, not the rot, but stop the momentum gained by Gould, and that's exactly what he's done. Gould's lead is now only 3-2. It's amazing to me that here we are relatively early on day 2, Jeremy, and already some really recognisable names find themselves on that one-loss side of the draw. Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz, Tyler Steyer, Imran Majid, and almost certainly now Ko Pin-Yi.
Yeah, well, motivation, you can almost feel it, and excitement along with it. Many players that haven't gotten to play in an event like this, you know, now such a big event coming to the UK. More coming as well, I'm sure. It's funny there, it didn't take much time over the ball. Most of the players will really zone in, really making sure that aim is what they want. Very flush on the 1. He played a little bit more of a firm cut break. Now you would think he comes off the left side, the 2, dragging the cue ball down to the middle of the end rail, trying to use the 9, the 7, and the 3 as some blockers. Subtle little shot with a bit of left English. Little touchier when the 2's so close to the rail because you can't come across it very fully without entertaining a double kiss. So pretty easy shot though overall. He can bring the 2 all the way across if he wants to, but that offers some gaps unless he's going behind the 5. And it does offer more of a jump shot also. And does Martin Gould, does he own a jump cue, Phil?
Well, I spoke to him before his first match and he said he didn't.
Okay. It's, you know, it's funny at this level, and these guys are super talented. The jump shot's not something to get, it's not that hard to get to where you get over the ball. Now, getting to the next level with accuracy and being able to move the ball and whatnot, now that takes some time, but I think if he did have a jump cue and maybe spent just a day or so doing it, he would have jumped at that ball. I think he's got to go for this shot. I mean, he's got to put a lot of draw stroke into it, but the safety isn't offered at all, in my opinion, anyways. Yeah, I think the safety will get the best of him. There is a possibility of a scratch going for the make in the lower left, but I think it is dodgeable. Now he's looking at playing the blue 2 into the 8, trying to just pinch the cue ball one rail behind the 3, I think. And, you know, pretty decent percentage there, and he's got to love the outcome.
Yeah, had 2 balls to potentially hide behind, and then, of course, the 8 ball made it 3. So Gould again kicking.
Now this is going to give up a shot. Pretty nice kick shot, though, coming across it. I mean, percentage-wise, that's how you would play it. And he was looking at the 4-6. I could have swore the 4 went by the 5. And you talked about the break shot to open this match, and what I've seen so far is I like the way Gould is breaking them a little better than Sanderson. Sanderson with a lot of clusters.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a massive improvement on what he was doing yesterday with the break-off. And clearly, just from that fact alone, he becomes a more dangerous player.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he's looked at the 4 in the lower right, so we'll see if he goes forward with the cue ball. Still coming backwards for the combination, it looks like. It's going to be a heavy cue ball, so he's going to have a cut. And where do you go? Because now, after he makes this combo, the 4 probably doesn't pass. Oh, he's just going to play the safety. Smart shot.
How about this, ladies and gentlemen? Ko Pin-Yi has his first rack on the board. He's avoided a goose egg, a whitewash, a donut, whatever you like to call it. Luke Garland's lead reduced to 8-1.
Oh, well, there's a guy trying to win the tournament, right? Tournament win is really what his motivation is. So, to be honest with you, you never want to get beat. 9-0 really sours the deal a little bit more, but I don't think it would really affect Ko Pin-Yi. Now Elliott Sanderson with another ball in hand. Skylar Woodward with an early mistake, and I haven't seen him back at the table in a couple games. I'm not sure what the score is, but...
Don't worry, Jeremy, he's 5-1 up on Niels Johanning.
Okay. I tend to worry a bit, Phil. Interesting shot here coming out. The 6 definitely went in the upper corner and the side. And, you know, put about 7 feet of cue ball movement where it looked like maybe 8 or 9 inches would have done the trick, especially with the 7-8 so playable. That's what players have to recognize. When balls in the future are so easy or doable, keep it simple in front of you. Sanderson with a nice touch there on the 6.
Back on level terms, Sanderson. It is 3 racks each. Some interesting scores to give you. The winner of this match, by the way, will take on either Alexandras Horsens from Latvia or Abdullah Al-Yusuf, semi-finalist in last month's World Championship. Well, right now, Al-Yusuf leads 4-2. Chris Melling and Ian McCormick, they're 2 each. And how about this for a scoreline? David Zalman from the Czech Republic leads Joshua Filler on table 8, 4-3.
Well, like I said earlier, there's a lot of players in this event. This is something special. So we're going to have some special moments for some of those players as well.
Other scores, So Shaw leads Besar Spahiu from Albania, 8-2. Oscar Dominguez 3-1 down to Bruno Bernardo from Portugal. And Torsten Homan, former world 9-ball champion, he's 6-0 up on Chetan Chabra from India.
Yeah, I spoke with Torsten yesterday a bit, and he just wasn't too happy, even though he got by that first performance. So probably thought about it. He will definitely process, and looks like he's brought a better game here in day 2. On table number 2's Oliver Zolnacki at the table in the first game, and what a solid player he is. And tell you what, if you want to learn something from a young player, I don't know if there's anyone better to watch. I wouldn't be saying this isn't makeable in the top left. It is a thin cut. Most would play the cue ball behind the 6 here. Could have run the cue ball behind the 5 and the 8 as well, but okay, he's got to be accurate here with speed control and the line of the cue ball. He's going to leave a jump shot. Something you would figure Elliott would definitely take a stab at.
One feature of Gould's match yesterday, he did get speed control really well when he was playing safeties. But of course, having that jump ammunition, that really does help.
Doesn't appear the pocket has opened up, and if it hasn't, this is very, very difficult because of the 5 ball. Very hard to run the cue ball off the 1 with the 5 in the way. You can't simply bump the 1 by the 8 without it being, you know, a very deft touch from some distance. So we'll see how creative Martin can get here on this, I think, tough situation. May play just a mild safety, just trying to keep him off the offensive shot. He had to take a bit of risk there, and may have closed the pocket up with the 5 a bit. Looks like the pocket is pretty small on the 1. And I was wondering about that shot there. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but that was a very off-angle combination feel. And I wonder if he would have been better banking the 1 on the 6 up in the top right. I think percentages say he can hit that a number of ways and pocket the 6. Difficult little situation here for Martin as well. The kiss shot on the 5 is easy, but you have to hit rail first to create a cue ball running upward with the 1. So just another shot that's not played by the snooker players very often. Hard to pass up on the 5 though. Yeah, like right there. Instead of understanding to hit the rail first before he hit the 5 to create movement on the cue ball, he's now maybe even in a worse jam. Easy to get corner hooked by the corner here on these diamonds with the deep slates.
Yeah, you see, his terminology, snooker, that would be not corner hooked, it would be jawed or angled.
Jawed, I like that one. Oh. Well, if he is, he's going to play a swerve shot, I would think. Looks like the 8 and the 9 may have the kick shot kind of cut off. We'll see what he does with the cue stick, if he elevates the back end. Yeah, a little bit. He's got options, though, if he does hit it. This cue ball is going to get lost in the corner, I think. And I'll tell you what, for this ball being like right next to the 6, you don't figure the 6 to not go in, but it did lay a little funny. Yeah, it's almost got a double kiss in as long as you don't hit it too light. I'd play the 1 onto the 6, not the kiss shot here. You could easily double kiss the 1 and not hit anything. I think if he goes off the right side of the 1 with a little speed, no way the 6 jaws up, not on the slick table. Oh, he's playing the kiss shot. Yeah, I was going to say that double kiss was very big from that distance. Hard to hit the 1 thin enough.
He's becoming increasingly exasperated. Can't get a grip on this match, can he? Even though, obviously, they're level. There's nothing to be too concerned about with just yet. But you can see him in the background, Elliott Sanderson, shaking his head. Not happy.
And maybe a little experience got the best of him there, not knowing, you know, if he's with his partner in the World Cup of Pool, Jason Shaw certainly tells him, hey, just a hair of speed on the right side of the 1, the 6 is going to fall for sure. And the way that Martin has broke the balls, this could be very concerning, even at a 3-3 scoreline going to 9.
Capitalising on Sanderson's misfire, Martin Gould is back in front at 4-3. Maybe the Ko Pin Yi recovery from nowhere to victory could be a possibility. He was, as we told you, 8-0 down against Luke Garland. Now it's 8-3. Do not write him off yet. In fact, I'm just being told it's gone 8-4. So Ko not out of the reckoning there. That would be some great escape, wouldn't it? Omar Al Shaheen 5-3 up against Matthias Kulsch. Nicolas de Leon, he's 7-3 up on Rainer La. Ronald Regley 6-3 down against Ramesh Gokul. And Jeremy was talking about Oliver Szolnocki in glowing terms, the man from Hungary. He's taken the first rack from Fraser Patrick, and it looks like taking the second as well.
Yeah, Kelly Fisher and a nail biter, up 8-7. And he kind of crossed the 1 over there. Maybe intended, not something you'd want to do too often. That kind of leans towards that scratch cross side, but I'll tell you, I like the way the balls are spreading for Martin much more than Elliott. Me and Alex Laley actually talked a little bit earlier, and we were watching a match, and he said he didn't like the cut break in this format as much, and I didn't. I totally agree.
I can't overemphasize this. It is transformational how he's improved his break from yesterday.
Yeah, smart shot there, recognizing he needed to get over quite a bit for the 4. Still got some work though, because it's very hard to have this table grab from this angle with top inside. I'd try to draw this ball if I could. This is the easiest pattern on the slick table here, is a little pinch draw. And I tell you, Martin recognizes what's going on with the table conditions. Big part of winning, I think.
When Judd Trump crossed over from the world of snooker to pool at the US Open in Atlantic City last year, he had some wins, but he didn't beat any one of Elliott Sanderson's standing within the game, status. This would be a really good achievement if Martin Gould could do it.
Well, I think Trump, I hope he makes his way back to that US Open, and I think plays more of them, you're certainly going to see some wins of this standard. And he's fallen nicely here, even though he has to play the 8 up long. I think a wise decision, not trying to really just tickle the 7 in at a super light speed. Go ahead and play the 8 from the short side, wanting the rack removed. And referees here, they're taking care of tables 1 and 2. So a lot of work.
You see on a snooker table, that shot into what would be the yellow pocket would be extremely difficult, and so that's why he gave it so much attention. He's still got that snooker mentality, but he's also increasingly getting a pool mentality. And he now leads Elliott Sanderson by 5 racks to 3. This is really, really interesting.
Well, Ko's opponent is at the table. He's made a couple of nice shots. He's in a good spot on the 3 with the 4 near, and really the rack lays nice. So we should have one of our top seeds go to the 1-loss side here in the 2nd round of day 2. Or on day 2, excuse me.
Yeah, looking a little more promising though for Joshua Filler. Maybe the German has weathered the storm. He leads David Zalman 7-4.
Yeah, he can do it so quickly.
You'll be pleased with this, Jeremy. Skylar Woodward on the hill against Niels Johanning at 8-2.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. And Skylar, who went home after the Whirlpool Masters, so did play a tournament that he won, which was nice. Got some time in, and he's thought about some results lately, and I know he's motivated.
So, not a dry break, but the 3 is blocking the 1. Now it'll be interesting to see here whether he does push out or not.
Well, I think he does have a little sliver of the 1. Not something you'd want to really attack on, but looks like he is going to play the push out. So maybe just that opening rack just didn't feel like the push out was, oh, did he go too far here? No, it doesn't appear so. No pocketable 1 ball here, or at least it appears so.
Yeah, in that opening rack when he chose to kick rather than push out, I didn't think he had forgotten about the push-out rule. I just thought there might be that just grain of doubt in my mind. But clearly, having done that there, that's blown that theory out of the water.
Now, can he get enough of the 1 ball to slide it over by the 6 and bring the cue ball down behind the 9? Some of the snooker players, to me, can be kind of genius on the rollout, just because of some of the type of safeties they play behind a bare ball, just 1 ball out in the middle of the table. Talked about it yesterday in the comms with Michael, that Steve Davis was one of the most difficult guys to play off of with the push out, especially when he pushed out. And this is surprising. Got it much thinner than I thought he could, and now Sanderson with a bank cross side.
Copigny has been beaten. Well done to Luke Garland, coming through 9-4. What a result for him.
And that's the motivation. He obviously played well in his first match, you would figure anyways, and now has put 2 under his belt. A little fortune on a miss here. May have looked at the 6 ball as well. Tried to play the 1 and the 6. The 6 laid very nice to kiss it in the lower corner. Low edge on the 1 here. Wants to come straight down. And is he pulling this ball? Trying to bank it cross corner? Really playing the cue ball as well, but super nice. Oliver Zolnoki doing what he does. When he gets control of the table, he's so efficient.
Yeah, technically he looks ungainly, but it works. It works very well.
Well, when you play smart pool, you know, percentage-wise, you would think that it doesn't take quite as much in the athletic side of the game, but wow, what a jump shot there.
Now that's the kind of shot that could be the catalyst for Sanderson to show us what he can do. He's been subdued so far. That was brilliant.
And he plays with a lot of pace, but he's got to realize that this is tournament pool at its highest level. Can't afford to be giving away games whether you're a favorite or not, especially some type of unforced errors. Maybe a hair lighter than he wanted. I don't think he wanted to come across on the 5. I wouldn't. Okay, he up. Okay. I wasn't so convinced there, Phil, if that wasn't obvious.
The pace just about coasted in. Just when you think one of the players might start to gain an advantage here, the other one bites back. Current score, Martin Gould 5, Elliott Sanderson 4. Can tell you Francesco Candela has beaten Marco Dorenberg 9-5. Sanyan Perlovanovic having a great time. He's 7-0 up on Shane Conroy. Kelly Fisher and Ruben Omar de Campo have gone hill. 8 racks each there. Ralph Suke has defeated his Indian opponent 9-2. Thomas Kaplan also through 9-2. Still going over Copigny losing. Must be a shock to everyone's system, but especially him.
Yeah, you might have thought of him suffering a loss like that a few weeks ago, a month ago, when he just started to get back into being able to play events after pandemic, but a great Whirlpool Masters and then winning Bucharest. Kind of figure, I wonder what kind of odds he was in that match, by the way. Had to be a huge favorite.
Another favourite struggling, Oscar Dominguez. He's 6-2 down to Bruno Bernardo from Portugal.
Yeah, well, that guy's a pretty solid player. Is that the guy that beat Tyler yesterday, I think? And Tyler told me that he ran a few racks, 4 racks maybe, to get to the hill after Tyler had made a mistake at 4-all, I believe. Another cross-side bank for Sanderson, but I think the 2's a little covered up by the 8, so I don't know if he goes offensive here. A lot of times when you're taking on a bank, you want a reward to be able to clear the table. Now, this is interesting. He can go behind the 9, or he can really be aggressive trying to come up underneath 3 rails behind the 8.
Quickly, let me tell you, Torsten Homan, who will play in the World Cup of Pool alongside Joshua Filler. That's a formidable duo, isn't it? He has just whitewashed Chetan Chahabra from India 9-0.
Yeah, you think Pool isn't so competitive, and you know, Filler, who won with a different partner last year, and now going to take on, of course, former world 9-ball champion, and the team's not going to weaken, but you would figure that after winning it last year that they'd have a chance to have that same team. But you got to keep your status in professional pool to get invited to these events.
And hot off the press, I can tell you, Kelly Fisher has just potted the 9-ball to win 9-8. So well done to her. 2 out of 2 for Kelly. Still on the winner's side.
And it looked like it was going to be a light speed, but the one just getting to this bottom rail isn't going to keep Martin from a pocketable 1-ball. But with the 2 kind of in a tough situation, that one carrying over made a huge difference on maybe his future in trying to run out. Here in rack number 10. These guys are playing at a nice pace. Up and down the table for a bank, and if you don't get the bank, maybe a safety off the 2. He's hit this a bit thick. I don't think he wants to play a combination. And really has become a difficult little safety situation. Solnaki with another break and run. So solid. Another thing that's very good for him, I think, is the template, really. I think the easier breaking situation gets him to where he doesn't really lack the breaking, but it's just not quite the upper echelon.
Well, this is how good Solnaki can be. We know that Shane Van Boening is the world champion this year. The reason he wasn't the world champion last year was because he lost to Solnaki. Anyone who can beat SVB in the World Championship has got to be very useful indeed.
Well, I keep saying I don't know what his nickname is, but the Mad Genius is what I'd put it at. I've seen the young man make some plays safety-wise and rollout-wise that I've never seen, and I'd pay attention.
Well, that wasn't genius safety, was it? It was a gift.
Yeah, now Martin's going to have to power up a little bit coming around the table 3 rails, unless he maybe can kill this with inside, but that's really flirting with the 8-ball coming across. So this would be digging on the cue ball a little bit to me with low right. He has to avoid the 7, but does lay pretty nice. He got a little quick with delivery, and the one thing is when you have a little bit of a quick tempo like both of these guys, when you get a little extra quick, it just doesn't take much to be off.
Coincidental, but the 1-ball he very surprisingly missed yesterday in his first match was the 2 when he was jacking up a little.
Yeah, big pocket here on the 2 with the 7 being there. Should shoot at this. Got a bump on the 7, little friendly bump on the 3, but deservingly so. Pros and cons to the quick tempo, though. I mean, you do, some believe, do a few things better at times, but not much room for error with that type of tempo. I'm not sure if Zolnoki's opponent has gotten to the table at all in this match. It's at 4-0, and then looks like another break and run coming.
Well, at the end of our rack here, I'll tell you a little story about Fraser Patrick, which is something that marks him out on the snooker tour.
Should be level here soon on the main table.
We are indeed level. It was 1-1, it was 3-3, and now it is 5-5. But of course, Sanderson has the advantage because he gets to break off in rack 11. Yeah, the little story I was going to tell you about Fraser Patrick, who's trying to play over on table 2, but not being able to get to the table. He is very skilled at putting on a Q-tip on a snooker cue. So a lot of the players ask him to put the tips on to their cues for them. And I think he's actually got the job for a certain John Higgins, who's one of the finest players in the game. And talking of John Higgins, it's his 47th birthday today. So if you're watching, John, many happy returns.
Yeah, happy birthday to him and Emily Fraser, as a matter of fact. It's her birthday. Now, was Fraser Patrick a snooker player as well?
Yeah, I've seen him make many a century. He's a fine player, actually. Been on and off the tour for quite a number of years now. Only 128 players on the tour, so obviously very competitive indeed. If you don't finish in the top 64 in any one season, you basically are relegated and have to go to Q school.
Yeah, well, Zolnoki's not letting him play much 9-ball today either, and I wonder if them guys get much tip work if he's on their side of the draw in those snooker tournaments.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 guys who, throughout the last couple of decades, really have been the go-to people to put tips on. One of them was a really well-known referee called Laurie Annandale from Scotland. And on one occasion, Stephen Hendry flew Laurie out to Antwerp, Belgium, just for the day to put a tip on his cue, and then flew him home, all expenses paid. Another one is a former professional snooker player called Les Dodd, who owns a club in Southport in England. And Les was a good player who competed at the Crucible, and one of his claims to fame was that he was voted one year the slimmer of the year. Lost so much weight.
Well, I'm pretty particular when it comes to my tip work, I'll tell you that. And I don't know if anal's the word or not. Don't know a lot about it, but I know what I like. As soon as I find somebody I like, I usually stick with them.
Yeah, certain people have a knack of doing things, and when you gain a top player's trust, you continue to carry out the job. It seems such a small thing to people who aren't in the know, but having a good tip, a reliable tip, one that works and one that feels right, is so vital.
Yeah, I had a good friend of mine, a funny story. In '99, the only time I was really ranked #1 for some time, about 6 or 7 months, I guess. Had the breakout year, second in the first Camo event, Camo Pro Billiard Series, and I won the next one, then second in the next event. And there was a little break between, went to Vegas for the World 8-Ball. And I told a good friend of mine that does incredible tip work, and he's a great dude and everyone knows how good he is, but everyone can make mistakes. And I told my buddy Joe, I was like, hey Joe, just clean the shaft a little bit, the tip's good. I'll be back in a few hours, I'm gonna go play some golf. I had a day or two before I played. And I came back and I got about 30 or 40 feet away from him, and he turned his head and looked at me, and he got a look I'd never seen on his face before. And he said, Jeremy, I said, I think I made a mistake. And so he just put the wrong tag on the shaft to do the work, and he put a new tip on. And of course I went not so deep in that event, but you know, things happen. I kept the tip for a little while though, I think, so he still had it, but couldn't do much with it.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, as they say.
Yeah, that line's been used a few times. Spider-Man's the first one that comes to mind, I think. Okay, an interesting little rollout. Cue ball off the rail quite a bit. So really has all kinds of choices on tip position, which is not normal on a push out. Normally you want it resting near the rail, and he may be able to just simply bank this away. Yeah, that pretty light with the rollout from Sanderson now. The jump cue has helped him, but this one ball's gotten funny. And at 5-5, those push outs are pretty crucial. And of course, watching the main table here and keeping a half an eye on the Zolnoki and what he's done, and what a great jump shot again. So the jump cue has really come alive here for Sanderson, but still haven't seen Patrick at the table, even though that may not be the case. He maybe has had some time, but I just haven't seen it. And another fine jump shot from Sanderson, Phil.
And it was a jump shot that turned things around for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, very suspect push out there, I think, and not much Martin Gould could do. Yeah, he played the correct shot, kept it simple.
With your Mosconi Cup captain's hat on, Jeremy, I can give you the good news that Skylar Woodward did come through comfortably in the end. 9-3 against Nils Johanning.
Yeah, Sky's still looking to get his year started as far as some big results, and just shows you how tough it is. If you know, need a bit of luck, of course, at times, but you know, if you're off and you lose a little confidence, maybe make that extra mistake a match that you're not used to, you're going to be in the chair come towards the end of the event, and that chair I'm talking about is the bleachers. One thing I see from Zolnoki is, man, preparation is something he kind of, it's obvious, right? Just so solid, very confident.
And he must fancy his chances of going deep in the World Cup of Pool, because his partner is going to be Vilmos Valdez, who we all know is a really top-class player. Hungary could be a dark horse.
And Foldis, who's, I don't think he's here at this event. I haven't seen him anyways, and I haven't seen quite a few players that I do know are here. So, but back here on the main stage, Sanderson a bit out of line, so he's got to make a nice little shot, plus work the cue ball. Barely got it down a little bit on the left side of the pocket. Perfect speed, though. And it's been one thing or another for both these players to not be able to separate themselves from one another. So it just happens like that.
Yeah, Sanderson now, though, in front for the first time since 1-0. He was 3-1 down. He was 5-3 behind. Now he's edging ahead. Will the pool player overcome the snooker player? Of course, he gets to break off in rack 12, which could be really important also. Matyaz Akulsh leading Omar Al-Shaheen of Kuwait 7-5. Al-Shaheen runner-up in last year's World Championship to Albin Aushin. Ronald Wrigley 7-6 up on Ramesh Gokul. Oscar Dominguez now 7-4 behind against Bruno Bernardo. Chris Melling, he was 6-2 down against Ian McCormick from the Republic of Ireland. But Melling has just won rack 9 to slightly reduce the deficit.
Yeah, and there's a few usual suspects that were missing this week because of the Southeast Asian Games that are going on, that those players, of course, representing their country in a long tradition. And Aloysius Yap, Carlo Beato, Johan Chua, and Shark Syed. There's a number of players, some Vietnamese players, of course, and Thailand. Still a full field here at the UK Open, so. So now we'll see. I thought it was a bit of a so-so push out in the last rack. We'll see where he decides to go here. And as great as that last year's team was for Europe, you would have to bet a change this year, right? I mean, just so many names making so much noise. Oliver here, be a tough guy to pass on, and he may just earn his way through points.
Well, just looking at it from a purely neutral outsider perspective, how can you possibly pass up on Filler, Aushin and Shaw? Then there's only 2 slots to fill.
And another very so-so push out. I mean, if you're going to roll out to the rail, you can't make it easy. Not saying it was an easy place to go anyways, but I may have rolled out to the top rail there, not offering the bottom of the cue ball. Maybe a potable 1, but not really any way to get shape on the 2. So we'll see. Good thing is a doable kick here if he can get 2 rails and hit it full. Oh, he missed it. And how often we see that at this level in the tournament conditions?
Well, he missed it narrow. I'm very surprised he didn't make any contact there. Very surprised, because we all know just how good a potter Martin Gould is, and Sanderson must have realised that no contact means ball in hand. Ball in hand means highly likely Gould is going to clear up. Highly likely.
Yeah, and I think, of course, they can discuss some things in the World Cup of Pool. It's the beauty of it, and it's really got a lot of flavor, I think. Dynamic of the doubles itself, but maybe some discussions coming as far as some strategic things between Shaw and Sanderson prior to, what, just less than a month away, the World Cup of Pool.
Well, I think you definitely will see a leader in that duo, that pairing, and it will be Jason.
Man, really a great leader he is in doubles, because it's not a, you know, one thing to lead is how you come across while you're leading. That makes a huge difference. And Jason, soft-spoken, but with a good confidence. So it's not going to be anything discouraging coming from Jason, but just a fabulous partner. Oh, I was just about to say, shouldn't be a problem here with the rest. And as soon as I thought it, didn't even have to say it, a little jinx from the commentator.
There's absolutely no scientific reason for me to say this, Jeremy. There's no clue, no evidence whatsoever. But as he got down over that shot, I was wondering, somehow, and I don't know why, miscue, something in my head,
Wow.
and I don't know why.
Well, time to go to the bookies then, Phil.
Well,
or at least pass the information on if you have any more inclinations.
I will do, but it was such a wild thought that I thought there's no way it's going to happen.
Watch out for the scratch. Okay, he came across it, so he needs some help from the 6, and I don't think he's going to get it. Good look at the backhand here. Much different than most. You can see a little more tension in there. A little more of an impact, you might say, but very efficient overall. I don't know about snooker in general, Phil, but in pool you're taught to carry a pretty light backhand overall.
Yeah, I think that applies across the board in Q Sports. Tension in the back arm is to be avoided at all costs. But Elliott Sanderson now feeling less tense than he was. Bear in mind, at one stage he was 5-3 down, but he's won 4 racks in succession. There, greatly helped by a Martin Gould miscue using the rest. And so, Elliott Sanderson leads 7-5. Chris Melling pulling back against Ian McCormick. It's now 6-5 to the Irishman. Ronald Wrigley has gone in front. The man from Switzerland leads Ramesh Gokul 8-7. He's on the hill. So too Bruno Bernardo on the hill against Oscar Dominguez at 8-4. Ko Ping Chung, the younger brother of Ko Ping Yi, has lost the first rack to Kevin Simpson, a Brit. I wonder whether the younger Ko is going to suffer a similar fate to his elder sibling.
I doubt it. And again, very interesting to me with Sanderson. Really doesn't take much time over the ball when breaking, and that's not something you'll see so much from players. I mean, still hit the rack pretty well here overall, but you know, if you miss the rack 1 out of 5 or 6, you're giving up a big advantage to your opponent, it seems like anyways. And I wonder if he can get a piece of this one ball, and if he has to push out, he's going to push out to just a portion. Type of shot I don't think you're, depending on how much you can get of this one, but I don't think Martin will pass on this. He can cross this over, come between the 2 and 5 with the cue ball, try and drift down behind the 4. Don't think he can really add a ton of right spin here. Going too close to the 6, I think. And he has passed it. I think just a straight high ball. Like I said, lay the 1 over, try and come 1 rail behind the 4 is what you would try to do. He's gotten him over the 4, which is obviously not snookered, but makes things very difficult, especially when you have to roll the ball from some distance.
Yes, and employing what is still for Martin an alien cue with that bigger tip, this shot will feel rather intimidating.
And he should just, it looks like he's going to try and bank the 1 all the way back down by the 9, and I think I would play the 1 over on the left side rail, trying to use the 2 coming up the right side rail with the cue ball. Yeah, that's always difficult, jacked up. You know you can't hit it too thin, or else you don't carry the 1 far enough. And it just doesn't take much when elevated, you know, pretty much directly over that 4. And really, Martin has got to keep his composure, because again, that miscue was a big mistake. But prior to that, losing games, it was a little bit of unfortunate or misfortune, I guess, and also Elliott Sanderson making a couple really nice jump shots from some bad situations.
Yeah, that jump to the top right-hand pocket, that was the big turning point for me in the whole match. Because until then, Sanderson had been, as I said at the time, subdued.
Yeah, and really made a couple mental errors, I think, on the push out. And Martin playing some nice shots, but just didn't get the reward overall. And that's the great thing about our sport. You can recover. Oh, Fraser Patrick has gotten on the board. Trails 7-1, but this is off the snide, right? And I think a guy like Elliott, who obviously has great skills, but playing more big events, besides tidying up, you know, your technique, of course, and some percentages, the difference in the pro level and then that little next level down, and not necessarily not pro, but just a notch of pros, you might say, is grinding out games from situations where you're not a favorite. It's really the difference, and not saying you're going to do it all the time, but that 1 or 2 extra games out of 7 or 8 that you normally lose, that makes a huge difference in advancing and really understanding you can do a lot of things. A little flat here, so he's got to work the ball.
On those 4-inch pockets at the Whirlpool Masters a couple of weeks ago, this would have been a real ticklish shot. A little more forgiving here, and it's pumped in with no issue. And so Elliott Sanderson finds himself on the hill. His winning streak has extended to 5 racks. Martin Gould stuck on 5. It's 8-5 overall. So Jeremy was saying that on table 2, which you can see there, Oliver Szolnocki 7-1 up now on Fraser Patrick. the Hungarian still very much in the ascendancy. I told you before that the winner of our match, Sanderson or Gould, will go on to play in the next winners round, either Abdullah Al-Yusuf or Alexandras Horsens from Latvia. Well, it's Al-Yusuf in control there, the Kuwaiti 7-4 ahead.
Yeah, Billy Thorpe and John Morrow's played two of the openers as well as anyone, at least on the score line. I know Billy ran 7 racks in his first match. John Morrow hasn't lost a rack in the event yet. They play each other next in the 3rd round, so you can see things sharpening up, right? Getting much more difficult round by round.
As opposed to that break-off where things have really shaped up and things are getting a lot easier now for Elliott Sanderson.
And this is the difference in technique. You know, a lot of players can hit a high right ball here and come one rail between the 6-4, where you see him cueing downward, kind of draw off of the 2 ball versus a little bit more of spin. Not saying one's better than the other. You know, it's again all about how your cue action is. You'll see an Albin Ocean, he had played it a little differently. No worries here, just, oh, he's going with a high ball. Wow, this is interesting. Can't catch the 8. Ooh, that would have been no good.
I mentioned this yesterday. He's an accredited Sight Right coach, and the founder of Sight Right, Stephen Feeney, is actually in the audience watching this match. He's got a vested interest because not only is he watching the progress of Sanderson, but he's also watching the progress of Martin Gould, who has adopted the Sight Right method in snooker.
I guess that's an aiming technique is what I would guess.
And it's revolutionised the career of so many players, revitalised great players like Mark Williams. It's been so successful for so many.
Well, Sanderson would like to have a few shots back, but he really turned it on, overcame a few situations with the jump cue, and will advance.
The shouter this time screams. The screamer on this occasion. He's so delighted to win the last 6 racks and turn a 5-3 deficit into a 9-5 victory. Elliott Sanderson 9, Martin Gould 5, and then he let you know what he was thinking about that result.